Crossing Swords is one of the worst adult animated shows I've seen in a very long time. Now, it might just be because we've been spoiled in the past few years with a lot of great shows like Rick and Morty, Final Space, F is for Family, BoJack Horseman, Disenchantment. There's a really long list of some fantastic shows, and Crossing Swords was kind of the next step from the Robot Chicken creators to kind of get back into the groove of things, because Robot Chicken has fallen off somewhat. It's a show I grew up with. I really respect John Harventine IV and Tom Root. I think it's John Harventine, however you say it. They were a big part of my childhood with Robot Chicken alongside Seth Green, who also voices a character in Crossing Swords. But the show itself really has some problems. Like when it comes to anything but the animation and the voice acting. The animation and the voice acting are both phenomenal. They're easily the best parts of the show. The worst part of the show is everything else. The humor in this show is very juvenile, it's very gross out at times, and a lot of the time it's just stupid. But what really surprised me was just how inept they were at making a joke work, because there are plenty of jokes in this show that could have worked, that they set up in a way that maybe could have had a punchline that was funny, but they either overuse it, underuse it, they set it up and keep alluding to it over and over again, and so when you finally get to the punchline, it's not funny because you kind of already knew what the punchline was 5 minutes ago when they were talking about the joke. It's all just alluding to, oh, this next part's gonna be funny, something funny's gonna happen, and then it gets there and it's like, oh, was that worth the wait? If it's gonna be funny, it should be like 10 seconds. Like, oh, that's a funny little bit, then you move on to the story. And the story is really, really bad. In fact, it's so boring and uninteresting and lacks depth in any of the characters that I couldn't watch this show in one sitting, like I did with F is for Family Season 4, which I reviewed last week. This show I had to break up into chunks, which is part of the reason why it took so long for me to review, because it's just so boring. When you have all these great shows coming out that have depth and character development, there's no reason to watch a show like Crossing Swords unless it's really funny. And unfortunately, I did not find this show funny at all, which was really disappointing, because I still love Robot Chicken to this day. It may be just nostalgia, I'm not sure, it's a show I grew up with, but this is just bad. It's every worst bit from Robot Chicken played out for 20 minutes 10 times in a row. It just doesn't work whatsoever. At least the voice acting was really nice, and the animation was unique and stands out. That alone made for a kind of enjoyable experience, but only if you kind of turned your brain off completely. And even if you turned off your brain, this show would probably still bore you. There isn't a lot going on to keep you interested, and it's really disappointing to say I think it's the worst adult animated cartoon I've seen in a very long time. Plus, it's a Hulu original, which is kind of a tough spot for original shows. Shows like Future Man that only got 3 seasons when the first one was really fun and unique. Although Solar Opposites, it's kind of changing that trend somewhat, because that was a fantastic first season show. But Crossing Swords is just a swing and a miss. There really is nothing to hold on to except for the animation and the voice acting, and you can get good animation and voice acting in a lot of other cartoons. So I can't think of a single reason anyone should watch this show. Not one. There's not one reason I can think of that people should watch Crossing Swords on Hulu. It is a reason not to get a Hulu subscription right now. A reason to get a Hulu subscription would to be watching something like Future Man or Solar Opposites, something in that line, or maybe some old Family Guy seasons, but Crossing Swords is just bad. And if I had to give it a score out of 10, I liked 2 things in this show, and 1 is probably the lowest I would go. So 3 out of 10 sounds fair for me. Don't watch it. Watch some old Robot Chicken. Watch anything else. This show is just disappointingly boring and unfunny. I cannot believe it. I really respect the creators. I hope they bounce back from it. I'm sure they will. They're really, really good at what they do. You can tell with the animation and the voice acting. But when it comes to storytelling in this linear, straight-up story setting, opposite Robot Chicken kind of thing, it doesn't work whatsoever. There's no reason to watch this show. I kind of wish I didn't. It took me so long to get through. I could have been watching a lot of other really solid stuff. I could have been rewatching old Robot Chicken and making a video about that, which I'll probably wind up doing after this, just because it makes me miss those days a good deal. That's how bad this show was. I understand there are people out there who actually wound up liking this show, I'd love to hear why in the comments below. Maybe you're in a different state of mind than me. Maybe the comedy hit for you in some areas. However, I'm not sure how it would, but I'd love to hear from you guys. And if you didn't like the show, I'd also like to hear your thoughts on it. If you have anything else negative, if there are other little positives you want to throw in, I read every single comment on this channel, so don't be shy. And I will see you all next time. Goodbye.